live with them. That's how they do things here in Madeira. Now we're going to visit another development that's Landscape for Wildlife.
Folks, this is Johnny here. If you're watching this was taped from the Ocoee channel at the time. In June of 2006.
The town of Harmony, located in central Florida, is a large 11,000-acre development. A new residential community, this property is a beautiful site with a mixture of forest, lakes, and open rangeland. To learn more about how this community is living with wildlife, we met up with the conservation manager, Greg Ogowski.
Harmony was built on the former E ranch. It was a cattle ranch. They also grew a lot of hay here. And in the on the board that you see before you, these lighter areas were all former pasture. All the development that we've done has been on that pasture. We've tried to protect the wetland systems, the upland areas, just as much as we can. In fact, there are probably more trees here now than before we started. Harmony has got about 11,000 acres of land that we're dealing with, which is a big chunk. And we're trying to keep roughly 70% of that as open space. Now, some of that open space consists of lakes. We have 2 lakes, about 500 acres apiece on the property. We have a lot of wetlands on the property, wooded wetlands and marshes and all. So they'll be set aside as well, and we've got parks that are really managed as green areas. Even the golf preserve is not your typical golf course, but it has wildlife features worked into it as well. So managing that and getting residents involved in that is pretty much a full-time job that we're very excited about.
To get a closer look at Harmony and some of its wildlife, Greg and I hopped into a cart to explore the area.
Hey, I noticed all these lights around here. They're kind of uniquely looking. What are they? Are they?
Well, these are they're referred to as full cutoff luminaries. They shine light straight down the ground in a little pool. It's pretty dramatic at night. Of course, the purpose is to protect the night sky from light pollution. And they work very well. You can come out here at night and find your way easily down the streets and feel very comfortable walking around, but still be able to see through it all and see the stars up above.
So Greg, we're right here in this nice little kind of forest, a wetland, right before we come upon the lake. And Harmony preserved this from having homes behind here?
Exactly, yeah. This is the part of our Buck Lake Park. And you're right, ordinarily this would have a home site or maybe even a commercial center on it. But instead we've been able to keep the pines here and the real open feeling of being out in the woods.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I guess instead of one resident enjoying it, all the residents enjoy the lake by coming to this piece.
This is a great wind-down area for residents too. Just at the end of the day, just come on down to the lake and let it blow out.
That's neat.
And we intend to keep it just like it is. We think there's more economic value in this as a resource than dividing it into house lots.
What a lake, but we didn't see much wildlife. Greg and I got back into the cart and went cruising to see if we could locate some animals. First up, we came upon a pair of black vultures. They seemed to be fighting, and one got so upset that it literally lost its lunch. Oh boy, that looked like part of an armadillo. Wildlife is not always a pretty sight, but vultures serve an essential role by consuming dead animals. Next, we came upon a pair of sandhill cranes. These guys were quite tame, probably as a result of people feeding them. This is a big no-no, as these birds are known to tear up porch screens looking for food. Wildlife-human interactions can become problematic, but many can be quite positive. For example, viewing wildlife is a bonus for Harmony residents.
My favorite animal is, well, the armadillo. Yeah, they look like a little rabbit jumping around.
A little rabbit with some armor on it.
Yeah. And their shell's pretty hard.
What's your favorite animal?
The deer are really beautiful. And at Thanksgiving time, we had the turkeys crossing the road, and I kept warning them that they could get eaten alive, but they made it through Thanksgiving, and in the morning when you come to work, you see them walking across the road.
Wild turkeys. Now these are interesting birds. Greg and I got back into the cart to search for these elusive animals.
As you can see behind me, there's a flock of about 20 turkeys. And these turkeys are here because it's perfect habitat for them. There's the golf course with the open areas, and you can see the tree line in the back where they roost at night. So they come out here during the day and go back to the forest at night. So this mixture of habitat's perfect for the turkeys. Now, they're kind of skittish, but I'm going to see how close I can get to them.
Well, I couldn't get too close to these wary critters. This brings up an interesting point. Some wildlife species will always be wary of humans, and other species can become a problem for homeowners. To help educate homeowners about proper wildlife management, developers have crafted CCRs, or Covenants, Codes, and Restrictions. This document is a guide for homeowners about what they can and cannot do in regards to wildlife, setting the tone for the community. For example, Harmony residents cannot feed alligators as they become dangerous when fed.
So you see, developers can employ a variety of methods to benefit wildlife. Next, we're going to do something completely different. We're going to visit an area where the citizens have paid to preserve wildlife habitat in their county. So let's go take a ride.
We are headed to Alachua County, Florida, where its citizens voted on a quarter-cent property tax that essentially raised millions of dollars to buy valuable habitat. This initiative, called Alachua County Forever, was placed on a ballot in a previous election and citizens voted on it. To learn about this unique program, we went to the Alachua County Environmental Protection Office and spoke with one of the project managers.
Ramesh. Hey, Mark. How's it going?
Good.
Ramesh is the Alachua County Forever Programs Manager, and it's a really interesting project. Can you tell me a little bit more about what they're doing here?
Sure, Mark. Alachua County Forever was a voter initiative, passed in the year 2000. Over 60% of the people voted for it. They really wanted to save the last environmentally sensitive lands in Alachua County. And what the vote basically did was approve up to $29 million that we can spend on environmentally sensitive land.
I notice you have a map here on the table. Can we see some of the parcels that that you're doing?
Sure, what the map basically shows, these are the existing conservation lands in the county, and all these other colors are projects that people submitted. For example, we've already bought this piece of Mill Creek, bought this piece down here in La Cruza, and we just closed on a piece right in the city of Gainesville on 16th Avenue called Double Creek.
And when you're buying, are you partnering with other people to help buy some of these properties?
We've really done a really good job of identifying partners and bringing them to the table. And the one that we'll see today, Double Creek, the city and the state and the property owner all contributed to purchasing that piece of property. So that was a wonderful example of a four-way partnership.
So we can go visit one of these?
Absolutely, we can go see this one today.
So here we are in this beautiful parcel as part of the program. And we brought along Ann Bigelow, who's the manager and ecologist for these properties. And Ramesh is here, and this is just a beautiful piece of property. And what kind of things are you doing to help restore it? What are some of the features that you have here within the property?
Well, this property was recently purchased. We've had it about 1 month, and we have a plan for how we're going to manage it. The first thing we do is come in and do a complete inventory of all the species that are on here, the plants and animals. Then we start working on the non-native invasives. This property has a lot of different exotic plants that have migrated in from the adjacent neighborhoods. One of them, Ardesia, is covering the uplands in this property, and we'll be removing that and trying to restore the natural area, which is really good habitat for wildlife.
With a little initiative and gung-ho, citizens can rally together and conserve wildlife habitat across an entire county. Almost any county could implement this type of program. To learn more, visit the Alachua County website.
Hello, Dakota. Dakota's a barred owl. Has been injured and cannot be released into the wild.
Beyond the scale.
All right, we'll just go ahead and take the roll call.
Okay. Member Blank? Acting Chairperson Booth?
Present.
Chairman Conklin is absent excused. Member Fazio.
Present.
Member Grammer.
Present.
Member Godak.
Present.
Member Leach. Member Murphy is absent excused. Member Quinones said he was going to be here, so I'm assuming you'll have a quorum shortly. But as for now, you have a workshop.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll move into the second item, which is public comments. If there's anyone here that wants to make a public comment, please step up to the mic at this time. And seeing none, we'll go into number 3, new business. We're going to go ahead and move Faye Norris to next month, if at all possible, and move her to that agenda due to a conflict. And I know that on the discussion items for the sidewalks needed in Ocoee, the speaker's going to be a little bit late, so we'll go ahead and move into the item number C, which is discussion on changing committee name to Ocoee School Board. And at this point in time, I would ask Joy Wright to let us know if there's been any staff discussion in regards to this. The mayor.
Staff discussion.
Okay. Mayor, did you have any comments in regards to that? The changing of the committee name to the Ocoee School Board?
Yeah. That's it.
Good.
Who did it?
Okay. Is that something that, who brought that up at the last meeting? Was the mayor? I mean, is that something that's going to be presented then to the city, or what is the?
There are some hopes in some circles that we will see a reduction in the size of the school system for those large counties. There's legislation being talked about or has been voted on, I'm not sure, looking at not having school districts larger than 20,000. Well, one of the things that you learn to deal with being a native Ocoeean and a native Floridian is that when people come down here from Chicago, they didn't do it that way in Chicago, you understand, or any other town for that matter. And one of the things that you try to do is to take the ideas, the good ideas they have, and steal them, so to speak. And we see a disparity in the educational system to some degree from our northeastern neighbors and midwestern neighbors to some degree of education. And one of the things that they have that we don't have is certainly a school district generally that matches a township or a city or something like that that is maybe in the neighborhood of 5,000 to 20,000 students. It is something that the school board here has tried to deal with as much as recently appointing another 1 or 2 administrators that will have certain sections of the county that they will deal with as far as that is concerned. That is a step in the right direction if it's fulfilled and everybody is given an equal power, so to speak for their districts and try to find ways to improve them. So the name in of itself probably will raise the eyebrows of the school board. It's something for you all to think about. It's something that effectively gives you more clout, so to speak. And I just brought it up on a spur of the moment thing, but it's something that has been a dream since we tried to charter our first school to be in the school business to some degree of having a school board, not necessarily the city commission, that would have looked over the one elementary school that we tried to charter. And as time goes on, looking at the possibility of doing something like Pembroke Pines has done, where they have about 3 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school as charter. So to some degree, they do have a school district. And of course, Oakland, with its school, has struggled recently, but hopefully they're on the right track now. So yes, I brought it up. It's food for thought. Is it something that you might suggest to the commission? That's going to be up to you. So.
Thank you. Do we have any members present that would like to comment on this?
Yes. From what the mayor said, I think he wants us, to be more congruent with the actual school board, and he's being proactive and looking forward into our possible future. So I would recommend that we do take this to the commission.
Anybody else have any comments regarding that matter? Right now we're discussing the discussion on changing the committee name to the Ocoee School Board, and asking for comments from any of the board members at this point.
Swapping. I believe that we should do it just because it's more in line to what we should actually be doing and what the county is doing, and I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
So then, Madam Chairman, since we now have a quorum, would it be best to put this to a vote and a motion?
Absolutely. At this point, we could entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the city council to change the name.
Okay, with that being said, I make a motion to formally put this forward to the city commission to change the name of said board from commission to school board.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
I do have a question. Would it alter in the case that we are able to charter schools in the future the mission and responsibilities of this board, or at that time would we be looking at potentially electing? And I'm sorry I'm late, so you may have covered this already.
No. Mayor?
It would depend on the nomenclature that you would set up for a charter school. Any charter school, for instance, if you're just talking charter schools, and actually standing schools today can be chartered. In the fact that when you have a charter school, there is a school board, a governing group that oversees the principal, and the principal runs the school. So if you've watched Oakland, that is probably the only regular charter school we have in Orange County. Now, the Orange County school system will tell you, oh, we have lots of charter schools, but they are special ed schools for the most part. Some problem has to exist that somebody decides that they can charter a school to solve that problem. So we have probably about 10 charter schools to that degree. Just a brief history on it. We were in the throes of getting it done at the same time Oakland was, and in fact one of the things that we had considered doing was having the school system be the chartering, setting up a company and be the chartering group for it. And they actually, I think, did this in Osceola County, but in the views of the attorney for the school board here, they said no, they couldn't do it. They'd gone so far as to interview teachers and was looking basically for the cream of the crop to put into this charter school, which would have been Thornbrook.
Okay.
And so, yes, you would have to be dealing with the nomenclature of setting up some kind of school board, and this would be kind of the pivotal point for doing it. When we tried to do it at that time, the entire schools commission voted in favor of it. We had a stack of books, 3 or 4 foot tall, that we all studied, and the city commission also endorsed it. So it would be a nomenclature. You would still do what you're doing today with change the name, and only if you decided that maybe a charter school is something that the school could do. We've offered to them, and you are aware of this, and endorsed it to some degree, to even go out on the line with financing to help them to move forward with K through 8 near the high school up there, and they basically seem fit not to not to say anything about it. So it's a double-edged sword. What I'm saying now will be held against me.
Always.
But you are there as part of the backup for that kind of thinking. So to me, the first thing the community and the city offers to its people is safety. And the second thing is education. Now, I know we were removed from the school board, but it's up to us to keep pushing, pinching, shoving, cooperating with the school board so our children get the best education they can. And so those are the two things that I'm dedicated to doing while I'm here.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, so
Yes.
what you're saying is through the endorsement of this and the passage, it would help us gain a K through 8 possibility with the change of name?
The change of the name,
Yeah.
you know, it depends on how they examine it. Dealing with the school board, being able to predict how they react to anything is beyond my comprehension. I will tell you that at this point.
I think at some point when we had the discussion, that they mentioned they really did not want to build any more K through 8 schools. That was a comment that came up, I know, at one of the PTA board meetings, is that Orange County really didn't want to build any additional K through 8 schools. So maybe we can have a report from them regarding that also.
Okay.
I don't think they've built any as much as they've taken middle schools and converted them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was in this offer was an opportunity for a footprint. You know, I mean, they've got designs for elementary schools and high schools and middle schools, but I don't think that there has been from scratch a K through 8. Now, what you all found out in your studies was basically that it did work. And of course, one of the things that I asked them to do when we were buying the land with them was to buy a middle school site next to the high school and an elementary school site, and then you have a whole campus. And they chose to go up the road and buy the middle school site, which any of those sites out there they're banking it and making money on it. I mean, they bought it for $16,000 an acre. It's worth $150,000, $200,000 an acre now, so they're open to sell it to try and support other schools and other places more needy. So.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, now we'll revert back to the discussion on the sidewalks needed in Ocoee. And I know that Tanya's here to make some discussions regarding that from the City of Ocoee. And if in one of our previous meetings, we had discussed issues of several different sites within Ocoee that have drawn some curiosity, interest, and actual complaints from some of the parents. One of them being the Orlando Avenue, and I know that we got the report back on that we probably will share this evening. The other one around Stark Lake, and the other one which would be the new high school. And so welcome and thank you very much for being here this evening.
I'm going to start out with the Ocoee High School area that y'all were talking about. I know that Joy had worked to get a roadway, so the sidewalk project would be an Orange County project over there. Orlando Avenue is actually going to be budgeted in this year coming, 06-07, that we're just about to get ready to go through the draft process on. What we had funding for this year in sidewalks was Ocoee Hills Road, which is done, and we had Clark Road, which is done. We had funding for Lyman Road. Unfortunately, we had to move the funding for Lyman Road to another project to cover the cost of another project. So that funding went towards another project. So Lyman will be postponed and done in 06-07 as well. So Stark Lake, around Stark Lake, we have a Lakeshore Drive project coming that's going to tear that roadway up anyways, behind City Hall all the way to the dead end. So it would not make sense to put sidewalks in there right now. We're going to tear it up for the Lakeshore project. That's a stormwater drainage project that's going to have to elevate the road. We're going to have to repave the road, rebrick the road. So it would not make sense at this point to put sidewalks in there because we're going to be tearing it out before the end of this fiscal year.
And I know one of the discussions was not necessarily around the Lakeshore Drive area, but actually on the north end of Stark Lake on Silver Star Road.
Right. And what I'm telling you is, I'm sure as you know, I'm limited to a departmental budget, and my departmental budget this year said I was going to do Ocoee Hills, Clark,
and linemen. I've even had to postpone linemen. So funding could come from contingency, but that would not be something I have prerogative over at this point in time. That would be a recommendation you all as a board would have to make to the city commission, and the city commission would have to authorize funds for this fiscal year coming out of contingency to do that project. Because I do not have it in my public works departmental budget that deals with sidewalk installation. So
Now, is FDOT in any way involved with the Silver Star portion of that road? Because from my reading the email that was sent out, I think there was some type of input from FDOT on
I
that.
didn't get that email, so I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
The representative from Orange County said that parts of Silver Star is regulated by the Department of Transportation.
That's correct. Parts of Silver Star Road are overseen by the FDOT. That's correct.
Okay.
Because it's a state roadway.
Okay.
As is 50 portions of 50. So,
What
just
about-
like 1792 through Maitland, Winter Park, and Orlando, 1792 is actually a state road. So within the city, a lot of people don't understand we have state roads, city roads, and county roads. And what our city funds pays for is what is considered city roadways. That's where our funds go. County roads go to county roads, state road funds go to state roads.
Do you know if the portion that we are talking about of Silver Star is a part that is controlled by the FDOT, or
What
is it
portion
a part
are you referring to?
on the north side there along Stark Lake?
It would run from Blueford around Stark Lake.
Yes, we've had this discussion before, actually, when I was your liaison, and Mr. Zaytuni at the time, who was the Public Works Director, did indicate that yes, that is a state roadway right there, which is why we have not installed sidewalks there.
Mayor?
I'm only aware of the state road going all the way from Clark Road to Lopka Highway. Where it goes from there is, it may shift down to Franklin Street and go into Winter Garden. And of course, they've had plans on the books now for, let's see, I've been mayor 15 years, 20 years, to widen that 4 lanes. And of course, that would be one of the stronger considerations is to put sidewalks down there. They even had contingency plans to put a bridge across Stark Lake.
And I know that I don't have to mention to Member Booth, who is and has sat on the Metro Plan boards. I used to be a liaison to the DOT. Metro Plan is the organization that actually will bring forward and push the projects that happen on those roadways. And the DOT works very closely with Metro Plan on who gets funded and who gets prioritized. And what I mean by prioritized as to which years these projects will actually be implemented. And she can give you firsthand knowledge of how that works.
Actually, I no longer sit on the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I'm not sure who the city appointed to that, Mayor.
Rob McKee.
Okay.
I'm on an advisory committee to him too. And it's something that I would say to this board, if you feel strongly about the Silver Star section, I don't know that the city's ever approached the state to say, we'll cooperate with you to put a temporary sidewalk over there, because like Lakeshore Drive, thinking into the future, there is a sidewalk on Lakeshore Drive on one side.
Right.
And that's about all you could hope for on Silver Star to get it on the inboard side, so.
Right, because there's not, at the current moment, there is not a sidewalk on either side of the road.
The Department of Transportation every year holds public hearings on these projects. A lot of times the cities and the counties are represented by their public works directors or their planning directors or their transportation engineers, and they go and lobby the DOT at that point in time for project consideration. So the state does have a public hearing process in which members of the community can, what I would call, lobby for their projects.
Do you think it would be worth advisement to either have Bob O'Malley from Metro Plan or John Moore from FDOT possibly attend one of our meetings concerning this?
I think it would be. You need to get their attention on it. They're going to tell you, come to our public meetings, we have a public hearing process, this is where we like to hear those comments. Being a former consultant to the DOT, I can tell you they have bent over backwards. The Maitland Boulevard interchange is one area where they have bent to community consensus on what they want to see out there. The DOT is a much friendlier organization than it was 20, 30 years ago. So I believe firmly in in the fact that they're pretty good with what they hear from the community as long as they hear it.
I think that maybe that is something we might want to consider as a board, is to have them attend and have them advise us as to the process of what we need to do as a commission to move forward with the request for the sidewalk on the north end of Stark Lake, if that's the pleasure of the board.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, certainly.
I would say not just on that area, but there's so many areas, especially the one there at Ocoee Hills and Brentwood. People can't even walk by there. The traffic is so bad. People just trying to get into Silver Star, and then there are pedestrians where the sidewalk ends, literally, and they can't get across because not even a bike lane on that side. But I do agree with you.
Okay.
Well, I think before we have them come also, I think we need to have some areas that we want to concentrate on so that we're unified and not going every which way across the board. We have some projects that we definitely want them to look at. Here they are, and here's why we think they're important.
What I would say is I know I'll offer up to get a copy of a city map potentially for the next meeting, and then we could look at the actual scaling of where we're looking at, because like I said, some of this falls in FDOT, and some of it falls with Orange County, some of it falls within the City of Ocoee. And I know that a lot of individuals are just a little frustrated at this point, not figuring out who is actually responsible, because they've heard and had the fingers pointed repeatedly to different sources, and even when they go to that source, they'll say somebody else.
Well, along those lines, could we not have a map, on that map that you're going to bring, Madam Chairman, could we not have the map indicate who's responsible for that particular piece of sidewalk on the map?
We would have to work with city staff and public works
We
to.
may potentially have something like that already. I will not stake my life on it. But we potentially could. But another recommendation that I would make to all of you before you get DOT in here, and you talk to them about site selections and where you think you want to have that done, I would run that by your city commission. Make sure that they're okay with the list that you want to bring forward to the DOT, because you don't want to bring something forward to the DOT, have action take place on it, and have your commission go, whoa.
Right, stop it.
Stop. So what I would suggest is you have some planning meetings, identify your site selections, and as in your advisory board capacity, take a recommendation to the city commission and see what they say. If they bless your site selection, then I proceed forward with having the DOT come forward at that point.
Do you know what city and state work is planned coming up within our boundaries?
For the city?
Yes.
Our city
Yes.
project, we are planning to do sidewalks at Orlando Avenue in
No,
0607.
city and state funded,
Okay.
or county and
You
state
mean
funded.
county and state?
Sorry,
I have, no,
county
I
and
do
state.
not know what's on the county CIP. And I don't know what's on the DOT's project list at the moment. Both the county and the DOT should have a 20-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the DOT's plan and the county's plan is ever shifting and ever changing, but it should be pretty close to accurate as what they plan for the next 20 years in their visioning processes. I know the DOT goes 20 years. And that information should be available online. You're served by the DOT's District 5 here.
Member Fazio.
Could we not check with George Galooly's office and to make sure that that map is correct when we pull the map from the website? And also work with Teresa Jacobs on the county side?
Absolutely. I know that we would have to request the map from city staff to be presented to us next month. And then we would need to make a recommendation at that point in time to the city commission for their approval for us to move forward on the recommendations we're making to them. And at that point, once it's approved by them, then it would come back to us for us to identify, what we really want to present to them, to make sure, like what Tommy was saying, that we're not moving ahead with something that we don't have the blessing of the city.
And at the Department of Transportation, George Galooly's actually moved on to be the director right now of the FDOT. The actual best division for you to speak to, the Department of Transportation is broken up into state roadway programs and interstate program management, state roadway program management. We want to actually talk to the planning division for state roadways.
Okay. Thank you.
As
for that.
opposed to interstate programming.
And as opposed to, thanks for my clarification. So then, as this board, then we're gonna make a recommendation.
We would have to entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the city commission in regards to moving forward at us looking at proposed sites on the state road and county roads for sidewalks at this point in time.
I make said motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I agree. I'd say let's go along and see what areas need a sidewalk, period. And then from there, the commission can choose and select what they feel more appropriate, if not all of it. If they disapprove of half of it, then at least we get half of the other. Because as I said, I've lived here so long, and there's never been any sidewalks, and the roads are the same, except the traffic is 10 times as bad as it used to be. So we need at least some areas for pedestrians to walk around.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. And we'll probably need to do a presentation to the city commission regarding what our recommendation is, so they'll have a clear picture of what we're actually attempting to do at their next commission meeting. So
I also would recommend that we contact the Transportation Task Force, which is headed up by Steve Precourt, and at least give him notification that this is occurring, so that they can also add some validity and emphasis to our project.
thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Except if you could just hold on for 1 second. In regards to the proposed sites on Orlando Avenue, could you tell us, is it on the north side of Orlando or the south side of Orlando?
Sorry, I can't at this particular moment. I know that it's budgeted for 06, 07. The details of that, I'm not sure of just yet.
Okay.
I don't know what the stretch is, how many miles, or what side of the roadway.
Okay, I know that was the issue. I think that a lot of parents were concerned, especially with the elementary school, is the north side of that sidewalk, which bumps up to a fence, and it's it's right beside the road. There is not, any curb to prohibit a car just from running right up onto that sidewalk.
I just visited that area this morning. You're talking about the area that kind of runs near Sleepy Harbor, where we have that bench
Correct.
and the right-of-way and a little bit of landscaping.
Well, actually, it runs from the Sleepy Harbor condos all the way up to the elementary school.
Right. And I believe there were sidewalks on the other side of the road.
There are.
There are sidewalks.
There are sidewalks on the other side. I use them constantly.
So we're going to be filling the gaps on Orlando Avenue.
Right.
That's what the installation there will be.
So we're not looking probably at any improvements to that stretch from Lakewood to the Sleepy Harbor
Right,
condos.
this would be a new sidewalk installation as opposed to redoing existing sidewalks. This would be a proposed addition of new sidewalking where none exists currently.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you for your attendance here this evening.
You're very welcome.
We'll be moving on then to item number D, which is an update on the sexual predator offender ordinance language for the City of Ocoee. This issue is going to be taken up, so we'll report in on it next month. The actual CPRC for the City of Ocoee will be meeting on June 12th at 7 p.m. here in the City Commission Chambers regarding the language for this ordinance that would be presented to the city. And at that time, once they've approved that language, we would be bringing it forth so we can have an update to this committee at this time. It is June 12th at 7 p.m., which is next Monday evening. The next order of business would be item number E, the update from the mayor regarding communication with school board member Karen Arterman on city funding for the schools. Mayor? You're up.
Chairman, before you come on to do that, what's your take into the city commission? About when did you want to do that? Not this next meeting then? The sidewalk
Right.
project?
It'd have to be after our next meeting when we have an opportunity to come up with a proposal.
Right.
Okay, so your next meeting you'll have what you're going to bring to this commission.
We would have the city plans in hand. We would identify the sites that we're talking about for both the Stark Lake north side, and then also for, at that point in time, we don't have the county plans, so it would really be just the state road at this time around the north side of Stark Lake. But we would be discussing with them at that time also in regards to the Ocoee High School, and I know that a lot of the members of the board are very aware of that position up there. They've been approached.
So, clarification, would we then also have a workshop before next meeting to make sure that we're all in agreement with what we're going to present?
That would be something that we're going to be discussing when we get the plans from the city. We don't have the plans at this point in time. At the next meeting, the plans would be presented from city staff to us for that stretch of that stretch of land from Clark Road to Blueford on Silver Star Road.
Okay, and at that time then, we would discuss having a workshop.
Right.
Okay.
We would actually, we can review it at that point in time, and then it would be the recommendation from this board at that time of what they want to do, if they come out of it with a recommendation or if they'd like to workshop it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mayor?
Yes.
All right, the update from the communication with school board member Karen Arterman on the city funding. Did you have any further updates from her? There was a request from last month.
No, I haven't heard anything from her, and I haven't had any contact with her. And I apologize to you all. I'm looking at the budget over here in our end of the half-year report. Hinging on this is a double increase in your salary, so I just apologize for getting a little drifty back there for you. No, I have not heard from anybody. We've made the presentations to them, talked to them generally, but nothing.
How about an update concerning the response by the chairman and Mr. Martin concerning our last year's resolution for one thing which we handed to them? Did you hear anything back from either or?
That's what I'm talking about, basically.
Okay.
The K through 8. They say.
Because you were at the graduation, Mr. Martin was up there.
Yes.
No comment.
No comment.
Okay.
I mean, at that point in time, if you wanted to direct the city manager to make that discussion, or the mayor to make that contact with them to further these discussions.
I'd like to make a motion so we could just write a formal letter and have the commission send it to them, inquiring as to why we're being just totally blatant. We're just being ignored. I mean, they were here. I asked specific questions to them. We have a resolution in place. There's no answer still a year later. So, yeah, it's frustrating, and it doesn't matter what we say. But if we put it in writing, if we continue to I'm not saying harassment here, but let's open it up. Let's say, hey, Jim Martin is representing our district here. He's supposed to be taking care of us, but it looks like he's just showing up and making a nice public appearance with the chairman, and it's not going to fly. I'm not going to let it happen. There's a lot of unanswered questions, I believe.
All right, so are you making that in the form of a motion to have a letter directed from the city staff regarding the resolutions?
Regarding the resolutions, and from the city as well. We're getting shortchanged along the way. If you looked at the scores last week or the week before concerning our FCAT, our school no longer looks like the school it did once it opened. I drove through there and it's scary. It looks like a camp, like some sort of camp, because they're putting so many portables all over the place. The density of those students reflects on their grades what they're getting on the FCAT. We had more 9th graders pass the FCAT than 10th graders. The percentage actually went down. And when you compare that to, say, our other high school here locally, who happens to be one of the highest ones in the county, I'm referring to Hope and Legacy. Their percentages are way up there. I think it's the best, probably the best one in the whole county, and we should be proud of that. Now we need to show that to the, to the commission and say, hey, what gives. We need to find out what they are willing to do for us. If they're not willing to answer about the K through 12 through 8, which clearly, we did a study, I read it, and it's obvious that Hope was a K through 8 design model, which is on top. It's one of the highest in the entire county. You know, what else are we looking at? Piling in more children in the high school that was designed for 2,700 kids. We got 4,000 plus kids. You don't know how many people are actually graduating or passing the FCAT after 11th or 12th grade. From what my understanding, because I couldn't get an answer from the high school, only 150 of the people that went over to the ceremony actually had a full diploma, where they met every qualification to
Resolution from the city, or a letter from the city to the Orange County School Board.
Yeah.
Regarding the city funding for the schools and in regards to the resolutions that had been presented.
Correct. The resolution, we want an answer and we want a date. We're getting, you know, I mean, we've already given them time, ample time, and I believe it is just absolutely irresponsible.
Okay, is that was in the form of a motion then?
Yeah, there's a motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right.
I do believe that the school board at least owes us an answer or something else. A lot of time and effort's been put into this. It's a system that works. Been proven across the country that it works, and they do owe us at least some kind of response. And if it takes bringing them back or getting in front of them again to have another meeting, another group session, a work session, whatever they need, I think there's something we need to do. And the first step is to re-engage contact with them.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries. And then we will ask staff to prepare a letter from the city asking for answers on regarding the city funding from the proposal that the mayor has mentioned quite a few times with them, and the 2 resolutions that have been forwarded to their attention. Answers and proposals of when those are going to be instituted and with dates.
Madam Chairman, are we also going to carbon copy the commission so that they're aware that we're doing?
Yes, and to copy the commission that we're just doing a follow-up with the school board at that time.
Madam Chairman, he brought up 2 good points talking about the high school overcrowding and also the FCAT scores. And I think it might be wise on this commission's part to invite somebody who understands how to figure out the FCAT scores when they're all in. I don't think they're all in yet, and somebody from the school staff that can come tell you what's happening, and maybe even the principal if we have a low FCAT score overall for our school, to say what we're going to do to improve it.
Okay, that would be the FCAT scores, and what, I'm sorry, Member Quinones, what else was it?
Well,
you got my, if you figured it out, you're
well,
far better than
basically, all I'm looking at here is our at obvious numbers. If we have a school that's designed to hold, you know, 2/3 of what it's actually holding, or maybe half of what it's actually holding, who knows right now at this point. I just drove through there, and I've seen trailers on every single one of the campuses, meaning that there's not enough room. These children, these young adults, have no place to really be around. The scores that I looked at, these are the final scores that came out. Well, basically, if you look at our newest school right here at Ocoee High School, out of 946 ninth graders that took the reading portion, only 36% passed.
All right, what we'll do then...
10th grade, no, and excuse me one moment.
That's going to be under your report for the comments from the board at that point in time.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing I think we should do maybe is to follow up the mayor's thing, is maybe contact Dr. Reeves to have...
For Jenny Reeves.
Yes, and to explain.
For the next meeting then?
Yes.
Okay. So there's an agenda item that we'll look at when we get to that point on the agenda for the next meeting. All right, under other business, item 4, treasurer's report.
There's no new activity to report in treasurer's report. The balance is still the same, $1,037.68.
Okay. Update from the Orange County School Board meeting. Did any of our members attend any of the meetings?
I took it upon myself to contact the Orange County production department, and I went ahead and purchased some blank DVDs, and they are making copies of every one of the programs. So I'd like to make sure that anyone out there who wants to see the actual taping, because it's definitely not coming in, as I inquired from Commissioner Utterman and Jim Martin, it is just not viewable. I'm sorry. It comes and goes, and they don't even, the schedule doesn't even come up on time. I felt that maybe we could play it on our own, but it's probably easier if somebody really wants it. I'll be happy to just provide them the copy. They can check it out. They can look at it. I have not had time to go through every single one of those meetings yet, but there is a lot of information there that we're missing, and hopefully if we can get these were suggestions by several people. I contacted the library. I contacted to provide this for the people to check out, maybe at the school levels. Maybe provide a copy, and we can get some money out of the fund that we have, make extra copies, and provide our schools here within Ocoee a copy so they can check it, maybe at the SAC meetings, or they can check it from their own local library there and look at what's going on. Right now, that's one of the things that I think we're lacking. People don't know what's going on at the school board. The few times that we get to ask these members questions, they don't respond to them. I've been here, I've asked the questions, we've had submitted. That's a frustration, but I think that little by little, if we can do these things, anyone who needs a copy, either go ahead and email, what's our email address here for the education board again?
Joy?
I'll
Info.
have to look
Well,
it up.
if you want to contact,
They can contact the clerk's office, and they
you
can.
can contact anyone here if you go to the website, or you can email me directly. There it is, eab@ci.ocoee.fl. Just email it there, and put your telephone number. I'll drive over and drop it off myself. Okay, how's that? I'm not a hard guy to get by or find. I live down here. I've lived here for 20-some years, so.
All right, thank you. I know that when I receive any information from the school board, I do forward it to Joy, and then she forwards it out to the Education Commission. So anything I get, I do forward on. So, but I haven't received anything really lately.
And I would also, you bring up a good point. He doesn't want to necessarily forward it himself, because then he will be in violation of the sunshine law. So it needs to be forwarded through Joy.
Mm-hmm. All right, school reports. We'll start with Mr. Fazio, Board Member Fazio.
No reports.
All right, Member Grammer.
I actually have two. I'm going to do mine first because this is the easiest. For Spring Lake, they wanted to remind the children to go ahead and don't forget to do your summertime package, and to make sure if you're out there and you need to register for kindergarten, come on in. The office is open. And they are having Meet Your Teacher on August 3rd from 3 o'clock to 5, so they hope to see you then. And I'm actually going to do one for Citrus for Member Murphy, because he's sick and he asked me to do a few things. They have had a couple people retiring from their school that they would thank for all their services that they've had. The principal, Louise Brown, is retiring after 6 years being there, and their assistant principal is going to Orange Center, so they're going to miss her. Deborah, I'm going to say this wrong, and I apologize, Veneer, I think it is, the current AP at Citrus has been named assistant principal for West Oaks Elementary, so she'll be leaving. Their secretary, Kathy Perlstein, I think that's right, and if it's not, I apologize, is retiring also and moving with her family. And they would like to thank her husband, Mike, for all the volunteer work. Him himself has done 900 hours last year for volunteer work. So they'd like to thank all those for all the work they've done for the school. Congratulations to all the 5th graders going to the middle school. They got to go tour the middle school for orientation, and the middle school came to their school and did picture IDs. And don't forget your ID first day of school at the middle school. They, the 5th graders also did a very nice musical in the spring that turned out really great, and they also did an end of the year promotion with a little bit of their musical that they also did a real good job on. The 5th graders and the teachers and the parents had PTA prepared a fabulous banquet for the 5th graders, and it was cruising to success, and they all had fun on that. And they would also like to thank Publix. Publix came out for the kids with cakes and helped the kids decorate the cakes for Mother's Day. So I thought that was kind of nice, and they wanted to thank the kids for that, the Publix. And then it mentions that the staff had their luncheon at the Italian restaurant up there off Silver Star, and they all had a great time with that and are looking forward to next year. So everybody have a great summer from Citrus, and see you next year.
Great, thank you. Member Burdick?
I do not have any reports, but I would like to request a list of which members are reporting on which schools.
Okay. You'll send that out then? Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Member Quinones?
Well, just a brief rundown. I went through, I took the time to go over some of the FCAT scores, and in my view, from what I can tell here, it seems there's a direct correlation between the amount of students that are being piled into our classrooms and our schools versus the scores. When Ocoee High School was opened, it was meant to be a relief school. It has twice as many students as West Orange, and the scores reflect it. The middle schools, I've been looking at some of them too. Some of those scores just are not, some of them are going up, some of them are going down, but it looks like as the amount of students that are being piled into the schools is definitely affecting the grades. I believe the density and the class size amendment will hopefully help with that. Let's hope and see if the school board pays attention to us and opens buildings or facilities or makes other choices available for the parents. I want to also say that Hope and Legacy, I guess they went through registration. They have over 300 people still on a waiting list. So imagine that many concerned parents out there in the city and in the county that want to have an opportunity for their children, and that's what I want the county to provide, and this board in some way or fashion figure out. Maybe we can find any locations or assist in the development of that wonderful school, which is here in Ocoee, and it's now a K through 10? K through 10, and we'll go 11th and 12th, and we're going to be doubling it hopefully, and set a standard of what the class size amendment should be. That's all.
Member Quinones, I have a question for you. You've done a lot of research doing all this stuff. Ocoee High School is obviously overpopulated. Do you know, have you done any research into how much relief Ocoee High School will get once a POPCA relief is done? How many students will be going back into a POPCA from Ocoee High School? Because I know Ocoee has absorbed quite a number of those students.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's difficult to get answers because you get a lot of, I'll call, I'll get one answer from a person, different answer from another one, but I can only compare it by our last, being that Ocoee was a relief school, and looking at the numbers, which are right here, of all the children that attended West Orange prior, which was extremely overcrowded. Ocoee, say 9th graders, 946 took the test. 10th graders, 788 took the test. Okay, now we look at West Orange, only 592 took the test and 514. That's pretty close to a lot less, and you can reflect, I mean the grades are reflected there. So I don't think that they should have put that many students in our school to begin with, and it is irresponsible for them to even attempt to tell me that having that many children in a classroom is going to help, or to destroy a beautiful campus. Because if you look at all the portables that are sitting out there, there is no area for people to be around. That's not right. I think our children deserve better, and our community deserves better. We are here for a reason. I know a lot of people have been in this commission a lot longer than I have, and I respect that. But for the county not to answer our letters is wrong, and I want to just emphasize that. It goes to show you that they'll do whatever they can with the schools that are built here and affect our community. I'm hoping to get some more answers. I'm going to put some questions in writing, and I think that's what we need to do next time as a commission here. So when the chairman comes in and Mr. Jim Martin comes in, we can address those questions right from the board and the chair and expect an answer. If we want to give it to them ahead of time before they come in, that's fine and dandy, but they should be able to answer and not give you, just not hesitate like they do, or give you a bunch of stories. I want answers, and I'm hoping to get them one of these days. We're going to work hard.
Okay, thank you. Ms. White?
I'm going to report on Claricona Elementary. The next PTA meeting, the planning meeting for the fall, will be June 14th at 3 p.m. at the school. Meet the Teacher will be held August 3rd. And then I would like to just take a moment to tell you about their PBS program. It's Positive Behavior Support. And they are a charter school for that program. They've been named a model school for that program that will eventually roll out to others. It was started by the University of South Florida. And it is a program that awards students when they exhibit positive character traits. A different trait is worked on each month. Students are given notices by their teachers in the bus line, in the lunchroom, if they're waiting for their parents to pick them up in a car rider line, when they exhibit a character trait such as kindness or respectfulness, and they're given these cards, and then every Friday, a certain number of cards are drawn from each grade level, where they're given some sort of prize. So people are rewarded for good behavior. They've seen really significant decreases in the amount of office referrals that they had this year. It's the second year of the program, and I'd like at some point to be able to put the director of that program on our agenda to come and explain that program more fully to us, because it's really, they're seeing some dramatic improvements in behavior through that program.
And I have a report on Ocoee Middle School. There was a band spring concert on May 4th, which was very, very nice. And on May 5th, we had teacher appreciation, which was a Chinese Asian theme this year. And then the following week, the PTA supplied little trinkets of thank yous the entire week for the entire staff. Our spelling bee champ went on to the nationals, and although she didn't make it, we were very, very proud of her. We elected a new board for the PTA. We are going to desperately need help next year in funding for our school nurse program. We are still short a little bit of money this year, which we're hoping to meet through some of the last sales that we had. We had to add in 4 additional sales this year of candy bars, various items, coupon books, the QSP, Take a Hike, just to try and meet the donations that were required. If every student gave $10 to the school nurse program, we would be successful in achieving our goal for the school nurse, but unfortunately, we did not meet that, and that's going to be a priority next year, is to try and retain that school nurse at the middle school. On May 19th, they had an 8th grade party for those students that were going on to high school, which was very successful. And I'm proud to say that the Florida Auto Auction is going to be sponsoring the Diamonds program. And I really want to thank Member Fazio for helping out with our principal on that. And it's a new program that was instituted at the school this year, which provides mentoring, peer counseling, and bringing people in from the community. And just basically for girls, it's identified just for girls, to help build their self-esteem and provide role models as they go forward, because a lot of them don't have a lot of that, and it's really been successful this year, and they're going to continue that program for next year. And I'd like to thank the Florida Auto Auction, and I know Dr. Clark is too, very happy with your help with that. So thank you very much on that. And next year we're going to have Member Grammer also helps out. She was the volunteer coordinator this year, and she helped out with a lot of coordination with the volunteers, and we want to thank her. And we're moving into a new school year, so we're going to have some volunteers coming in with all the new books that we're going to be having to check in. So we'll be letting people know about that. Our lunchroom manager, Carol Cochran, retired, and she has been there, I think it was 27 years. So we wish her well in her retirement. Our SAFE coordinator, Denise Reed, she has left the school. We'll be getting a new SAFE coordinator for the school. Also, Miss Perez, who's a chorus teacher, she is leaving to go back to school, and I know that was a very sad issue for a lot of the students and the parents, because they didn't expect that. Also next year, we just